So Aishwarya, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so hello, we are Team Coffee Run. This is Sophie, as you will see next, that's me. And Silas coming up, so we hope you enjoy our presentation. So our aim is to create a remote learning curriculum for the HorizonCentre women that will be a source of entertainment, personal development, and escape during the current pandemic. So as the previous team mentioned, we are also working on the women's program and providing an escape for them during this time.
So we will begin by discussing our research process. So we began our approach really just by highlighting some topics and themes that we wanted to focus on and what we wanted to get out of our research. This will mainly just help guide us through the rest of the research process, as well as guide us in creating our interview questions. So some of the themes we came up with were, what are the boys and women interested in? What resources do they have access to? How can we help them develop psychosocial skills within design learning? And how can we best assist the HorizonCentre staff? So with that, we began our information gathering stage. This was mainly done through the platform of interviewing the HorizonCentre staff and maybe some of our own online research, but mostly the interviews. So we took from the themes that we created that were previously mentioned and created our interview questions based on the specialities of each of the HorizonCentre staff. So the list shown here is basically just like an overview of all the themes that we did for each of the interviews. So yeah.
So in terms of the information gathering, again, we were pivoting, and so to make sure that we were getting the best information that we could, although we would have liked to have more interaction with the beneficiaries, and given the situation, we realized that speaking to staff was going to be the best option. So what we did is we took from our interviews the key points and the weaknesses and strengths, and tried to find from those opportunities and pain points in the women's lives through speaking to staff. And so we were really focused on the beneficiaries, but through our conversations with the people who are working with those women on a day-to-day basis in as many as IA. So we separated it into 3 or 4 sort of main topics initially, and I'll be addressing those now. So with these key insights, we had an overarching sort of theme of storytelling. That was our main goal. And we decided to focus on this because the current response to learning, students had some experience at the HorizonCentre creating and telling stories, and it's something that they can do remotely very easily. But it also addresses certain emotional needs, especially in relation to the current pandemic and the confusion around, visas and or asylum papers and things like that. And so there's all sorts of questions that are being raised in this current time. And so we really wanted to have a strengthened core in storytelling. So when we have had our interviews, we were realizing that there were a few, very clear derived problems from the COVID pandemic. So we wanted to make sure that we were allowing for the HorizonCentre activities that would happen in person to continue throughout our remote experience. So we wanted to continue providing that holistic education. Our approach was generally to develop activities that could allow participants to escape from their daily routine and to give them that sort of safe space that they found in the HorizonCentre in person that we've heard so much about. And so, yeah, so we switched our target group from the boys to the women because we realized that given the sharing ability and the timing, that it would work better to work with the women. And also the women have had experience with entrepreneurship and those kinds of activities in the HorizonCentre. And so having them tell stories and work with objects and object materiality will relate back to when they're back in the HorizonCentre. So yeah, so we want to be able to have them create those story arcs, create those narratives, and be empowered storytellers.
Yeah, so after taking all of that research together, we began developing the initial ideas revolving around storytelling, but also storytelling in the sense of building your confidence and sharing your story. So some of our initial ideas, next slide please, thank you, was storytelling your journey, which we know is difficult, but the small moments of your journey and how this could be broken down could be through a comic strip and breaking down the steps of developing a story. One thing we also thought of was gamification in terms of how we deliver our materials to make sure that it's engaging through WhatsApp. And also one thing we really focused on was the idea of collaborative design and teaching these women how even through a pandemic, there are opportunities to work together.
Ash, you're breaking up a little bit. I'll just touch on this. So the collaborative design that we were trying to do was really based on having a community like they would find in the HorizonCentre, but apply it to a remote experience. And this is really difficult because the programs, the applications that we had to use were not necessarily designed for that. We have Zoom, we have other tools, but for these women, there was only a basic level of communication. Even that took a lot to establish. And so using WhatsApp and other platforms, we wanted to show that you could still be have collaborative processes.
Yeah, so to take these ideas further, we broke it down into activities within each one. So for example, through storytelling, initially we were thinking of the idea of having this digital identity, but how to keep a sense of privacy within that too. Another idea we explored was through comic strips, but more through the step-by-step basis of like finding an object and turning that into a comic strip. We also worked closely with the previous PM to make sure that the concepts weren't overlapping too much. So since they were doing character building, we focused more on storytelling and personal development. Next slide. Yeah. So once we broke down our activities and shared this with Ismini and Sai and Kiwan, we broke this down into each day of the week. So on Monday, I'll tell you an overview. The idea was to reflect on your story, and then Wednesday was developing the skills to share your story, and then Friday would be collaborating and working together to deliver a story.
So now we will be presenting our final curriculum. So the 3 activities are all based around the theme of telling personal narratives through objects that they can find around the house. So this is a basic overview of our 3 final activities. Monday will be more of a shorter warm-up activity, focusing more on personal reflection as stated before, as well as on establishing what storytelling is. Wednesday will be more about teaching the women how to create their own stories and storytelling in itself. And Friday will be more of the community fun collaborative activity, focusing on creating a video collaboration. So now we'll be going into the details of each of the activity, starting with Monday. So Monday, as stated before, this serves more as a warm-up activity. So we'll be tasking the women to look around the house for objects that they find are important or meaningful to them, taking a photograph of each of these objects, and through any medium they would like, whether that be written or voice recording, explain why these objects are important to them, as well as what are the stories behind these objects. So we will be teaching them basic photography skills, but the focus will be more about personal reflection.
Yeah, so on Monday, we were just building the idea of telling where and this was also inspired by our guest lecturer. Am I still
Do you mind
frozen?
repeating no, you're back. Could you repeat just like
okay, hello. So since I'll just start again. So since on Monday, women will be learning how to tell their story, Wednesday would be learning how to actually create a story. And so inspired by our guest lecturer, we thought of the idea of story cubes. This would be limited to just 2 for now, but this activity can be expanded further as you develop your skills. So women would be able to draw out different scenarios and practice their drawing skills, and then have this little story game that they can play with their kids and family in the end as well. So if we move on to the next slide, this is just an example of the GIFs and instructions we would be providing on how to actually follow the activity and complete each step.
Great. So on Friday, the sort of trend has been to have a slightly longer activity so the participants can spend the whole weekend to work and learn new skills. And so we wanted a really fun activity as well. And this was where we were able to take those skills that we were building throughout the week, although the activities weren't dependent on Monday and Wednesday or dependent on each other. We noticed, you know, that if a woman is able to, or any participant is able to follow through these activities, they'll build on each other and create a more holistic experience. And so this is the really fun opportunity at the end. And we are going to, when we roll this out in June, we're going to create a video over the weekend and have the woman send in different segments. So if we go to the next slide, we've got the different steps for it. So yeah, so this is the really fun steps involved. So you, we found this online. We've seen different YouTubers and things like that, different communities of people creating these videos, and we thought how great it would be to apply it to the Horizon Center. So the idea is that you take an object, and it could be one that you're working with on the other 2 days, but you could also choose a new object, or you could choose many more objects. And then you take time to write a script, to think about and to develop your different ways that you see this object and how you see it in the world, and maybe also what it says about you. So this was a hat that I got from a friend in Colombia, and you know, through this storytelling, I'm able to share, and we'll hope to integrate our videos in with the woman. And yeah, also the levels of access. You could just record a video and send it to us in the raw format, or we're planning on teaching some pretty basic sort of video editing skills using InShot, which some of the women already have experience with and have already shown us in the WhatsApp group as we've been communicating with them. Great. So yeah, so to guide our activities, one of the first things we did was actually to make these reflection questions. And we've been, we really wanted to make sure that we were including this because after our conversations with Mickey and Bettina, we saw how important it was that that us as students are taking the time to not just have the psychosocial be a secondary aspect, to have it be a core part of how we're thinking about and framing these curriculum. And so, yeah, so some of the sort of questions were, especially for the woman, and these are all reflection questions that are particular to the woman, are how they're able to time manage because they do have kids, because they do have a home life, because they do often have responsibilities that maybe, you know, the boys, for example, or in other settings, people might not have. We wanted to make sure that we're helping them and empowering them to plan their time and to think about the ways that they could accomplish these activities on top of all the other chores that they were responsible for. So yeah, so now we're going to talk about packaging. We wanted to create an efficient way that all these materials could be shared. You go to the next slide. The first thing we did was create a style guide. When we came up with the idea of doing GIFs for the class, what we really thought was going to make it work well was for our program was to have a really clear and distinct format, and so that's why we had color guides and kept the font consistent throughout our week's program so that it would really flow nicely throughout. Yeah.
Yeah, so with all the images and the GIFs we created, we combined it with our scripts that we wrote to create these kind of 3 PNGs or PDFs. This is basically just to guide the Horizon Center staff when it comes time to disseminate our process. So which image goes with which step within which activity, just to help it make the dissemination process more effective.
Yeah, so we heard this after the last, after AM/PM, and we've been speaking with them. I've been doing a lot of research in sort of the best ways for making these GIFs and making sure that the file size is very small. So this is the planning stage, this is step 1. And I was doing some experiments, and this is sort of the result of the summary of those. So if we have videos, there's only kind of a limited size you can get without reducing the quality to a point where it becomes not as effective, right? And so what we realized is that using GIFs would be a way of getting these short bursts of information, really visual ideas across, while also keeping the file size extremely low. And the reason for this is that we were excited, and we know that different refugee agencies and things like that are interested in creating education deployment opportunities in remote areas. This is just a very common need in low data environments. And so what's really powerful about GIFs is that there's a full range of trimming and post-processing that you can do. And I spent a lot of time researching the best ways of sort of either reducing the number of frames or reducing the pixel density of the images so that you get a really high quality, easy to follow GIF, while also not reducing the quality so much that it becomes disengaging.
Yeah, so to bring it all together, our primary users are, of course, the women, but we also wanted to ensure that the dissemination process is as easy as possible for the HorizonCentre staff, since our activity will also be disseminated in a later time period, which is why we have our Google Drive set up with all the GIFs ready. And if we follow the PDF, we also have the exact file name to easily disseminate it. And on the right is also just an example of how it would look if you were to send the entire activity through WhatsApp. And yeah, that's our presentation. We hope you enjoyed, and we're open to questions now.
Well, thank you so much, guys. That was an awesome presentation. Any questions or feedback from the guests?
Thank you guys again for being so willing to create a program and activities for the women's program. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much for all the research you did in order to disseminate the files and the activities in the best way for the women. And I'm sure they will appreciate it more than you know. And again, thank you, because you always very compassionately understand what we are trying to do or our constraints, and you really adapt. And I'm sure that the women would love this activity as well, because storytelling is in the roots of Middle Eastern cultures. So I believe it's a very good skill for them to develop further, and they will enjoy it so much to participate. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ismini. We really appreciate all the work with you. Thank you.
Yes, I also want to say a big thank you to all the teams. I haven't speak because everyone was giving feedback. Yeah, I'm very happy, especially with the activities that they are made, especially for specific for the boys. They are going to enjoy them, I'm sure, because I make the activities also by myself, because I want also to send them pictures, and I had really, really fun. Also with the stop motion, I was playing for many hours. So yeah. And also the teams, I want to say that yes, I did not have a lot of feedback only that, not feedback, questions, only that question that I write on the Google Sheet, because when we talk with the teams, they consider our feedback and they made all the necessary changes. So yeah, yeah, I hope that they learn how it is to work a real project in a real time with whatever these consequences means, like especially for the slippery earth, that we have already do the activities that summer happen here in Greece. So we have to adjust all our program. Also with the stop motion, yes, that we are hope that we are going to send from next week. So yeah, I think that's something that it can be a very nice experience, learning experience. So well done again. Thank you very much. We are going to do all the activities with the results that we all expect to have. I think that's correct, English. Anyway, yeah. Thank you.
I guess one more comment. Oh, Human, are we?
No, Sally, go ahead. Yeah, I'm not important.
Oh, I just wanted to say, at least for the last project, and I don't know if this was also addressed, I had to step out for a call for a second, but I really like the idea of making them work on like a collaborative project separately, like the basically the TikTok thing with the different things showing up in the videos and like passing them on. I like that they'll have to like work together even outside of the context of like a chat. Like they'll have to collaborate to be able to figure that out. And I think that's like a nice way for them to keep in touch with each other.
To feel connected even though they're apart. I think, yeah, that's something that helps achieve. So it's awesome.
Oh, sorry, Hugo.
Oh, go ahead. No, Chris, go ahead, please.
Are you sure? Sorry, keep interrupting you. I have some kind of very general ones, and then like an observation at the end. But I think we're all aware of this, but the Coffee Run team featured it quite heavily, which is the use of GIFs. And I find it fascinating because GIFs, that technology predates the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're finding we're using a technology that should have fallen out of kind of use in terms of time, but we're realizing it during particular times. And I mean, GIFs are all over the internet, right? But for a period of time, GIFs were not around, and now they've kind of come back. And I find that fascinating to kind of ponder what other older technologies have sort of fallen out of favor, but would have a use these days if they were repurposed or something. That was my only thought about that. I would like to generally thank everyone, and I hope that this period of time there has been some particularly useful learning outcomes for you, because we are, I mean, you've all been working with the team during an extraordinary time, and the number of constraints that exist at this moment on this project are many. So, you know, you had your own constraints. This, like personally, you did. For example, you're not currently all working from the same country. You know, we as a team at Pharos had constraints. Our beneficiaries had constraints, different kinds of constraints. The boys had different constraints to many of the women, and you know, and then what happened was recently, and you've highlighted, every team has highlighted this to some extent, is the lockdown lifted a bit, which in theory is a reduction of a constraint. It's like, oh great, we've lost a restraint, but actually what we've discovered is that release of lockdown has just created another constraint. And I want to thank all of you for being willing, tirelessly willing to adapt in this time, because we appreciate it as well. We have put constraints upon you and all of you. It's affected different teams in different ways. And I want to thank you for doing that, and also the the kind of selfless attitude that you've had coming into this, because those teams that have postponed releasing the activities purely to benefit the beneficiaries. Actually, we all know that as far as you're concerned, it would be much more convenient if you would be able to have received all the feedback and all the testing right now as we're having this conversation. But yeah, I want to thank you for being willing to postpone it into the future for the good of the beneficiaries. So yeah, that's kind of generally from me. I've been hugely impressed, and I haven't been very much involved in this, but I've been kind of watching on with interest. And yeah, I thank you a lot.
Well, thank you, Chris. You basically said everything I wanted to say. Okay, let me see if I have another feedback. Yeah, so I was like really impressed once again of you guys discovering, using GIFs for, distributing our contents, because it was one of the biggest challenges, and then it was one of the biggest concerns that, it kept on rising up in all their conversations. And I really appreciate that, you guys putting a lot of effort into figuring out the way of what is the best, setting to export GIFs on these video editing softwares, because I've been looking for that for a while, but it's basically all you can do is just test it, do numerous tests and then figuring out what the best setting is. Like nobody out there is actually giving you the best recipe. So thank you so much for figuring out that stuff. I will try it too as well. One last thing was, this kind of like goes for both the coffee run and the AMPM team, is I know we're doing this, your activities are mainly focusing on the women's program, but we're also thinking about disseminating the same exact activities to the boys program at some point too. In that case, do you think there's going to be a lot of changes that will have to be made? Or if so, what do you think those will be?
At least for this course designing for the boys program, at the end we knew we wanted to create something that could easily be disseminated for both. So the collaborative idea, the story cubes, the reflection, it could easily be applied to boys as well.
Jumping on from that as well, we have like the formatting of the curriculum so that it could be shared in Messenger, which is kind of what generally the boys program is working with. It can be shared across different platforms. And so, I mean, we were making sure that although the reflection questions might need to be changed and a couple introductions or things like that, in general, it could be applied to beyond just the boys program. It can be applied, in theory at least, with revisions pretty universally across refugee spaces.
Yeah, I agree, because we filmed our GIFs in video format first and then converted that into GIFs so they can easily be converted into videos for boys, especially because I feel like boys need a little bit more of like a interest at first to make it a little bit more visually appealing, so it would catch their attention, like what Team did, like their like monster move when it starts, like it really grabs the boys' attention. So I think it could easily be translated in that sense. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Any last comments or feedback for the coffee run? Oops. There goes the timer. So
I wanted to build off of like what Chris said. It was kind of like a really interesting challenge for us as designers to like look at all the challenges within this like new like confusing time because of Corona, and like going through so many Zoom meetings and like how tiring it gets. But I think it was like really interesting that us like young designers are at that like prime time of like figuring out how this like new time, like I'm sure there's going to be a lot of changes after quarantine in terms of like sanitary problems and like how working environments work and like working from home, like stuff like that. Because I heard Twitter like is really changing into like all remote working. But yeah, so I just want to say I really enjoy this process. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I also
thank
want
you
to
all
say
to
thank
like
you.
HC staff for helping us with like moving this projects forward and all the wonderful feedback, and also Hiwan and also our classmates. It really helped us like moving our small ideas to like all the way here. So yeah, thank you all so much.
I've got a kind of question for the Horizon staff and Hiwan and stuff. It's like a lot of this project has been very reactionary and like making certain sacrifices and working quickly. And I think we all did a very good job with the support of the Horizon staff to deal with that. But I'm curious, like as things stabilize, what lessons have you guys learned from this process that can be translated into like day-to-day programming at the Horizon Center?
I think one thing that I feel inspired by seeing all the things that you've done, especially the way that you have captured the target groups very well. I actually seen, I think you have reached a level that we sometimes even can't reach with approaching the boys in a way that is so exciting and that is so easy to understand, and it's a very high level of motivation. So I think you have inspired me to become even better at that actually. And also again, I feel inspired by the way that you have taken psychosocial focus areas that are very interesting, very effectful, but also quite difficult to talk about. And you have made them into games, gamifying. So I think those things, I take them with me, and I will definitely use that for the future development of some of our psychosocial classes, also the life skill classes. So I also feel that I have learned a lot from you and this process, because you can make it approachable, you can make it easy to talk about, and yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of stuff that I learned from this, obviously. But I think one of the greatest things, one of the greatest outputs was obviously the activities, but also the whole co-creation process between the students and the HorizonCentre staff. I mean, we often talk about co-creation a lot, but we don't really often practice it sometimes. And I think this was a really nice collaboration between the RISD students and the HC staff to kind of create materials together that actually make sense, that can be, have more impact for our beneficiaries. In the past, like sometimes, a lot of the DLab students who are here, although we did get some information and stuff, but it wasn't like, obviously we didn't have like the same kind of length of time to create the materials. So although there was some co-creation happening, sometimes we'll have to go back and then make dramatic changes and stuff a lot of the times. And I think the reason behind it is because, that whole co-creation process is sometimes like absent. And just like hopefully by this, all of us could, acknowledge the importance of co-creation design when it comes to, designing, materials and stuff for a different type of user. And having those who are actually in the field being involved in the process and just knowing the importance of it, I think was one of the biggest lessons I learned, but also I think a lot of the Horizon staff learned it too as well.
And for me, what I liked more is that you as students involve the other, because I have a design background, but I know that Mickey and Bettina don't have as many, is getting every day a better designer actually. So yeah, I enjoy that you include them in the process. So this can help our team in order to be more creative and without need of theory. They see it in how to practice it and what the results can be. So that's a very awesome outcome also.
I also feel that I learned so many things, and I knew about this presentation. We knew about it these last weeks, And I woke up with one phrase, and I really want to share it with you all. I feel that you really raised the bar. And this is how I really feel. And I'm wondering how will we continue with the same level once all these activities are disseminated. So you really inspired us all, and I really loved practically the GIFs and how you make a nice picture for all the activities that we sent out. That's something, it's always very easy for the women to understand and join the activities. So there's so many things really, and yes, maybe we need the feedback from you on how you think we can add more things to our program. Yes, thank you so much again, really.
And one thing is, I know a lot of us in the class have said this before, and I can't speak for everyone, but I know myself, we're all still like here, even though the class year is over, and I know our group's going to be disseminating later. But we're still like, we'd love to, like, if you guys need feedback or help adapting some of these tools or creating things that go along with them or new activities, we're like still here to collaborate with different things.
Yeah, it's been so much fun to work with you. Sorry, it's been so much fun to work with you. And so we are really happy as well to be sharing like templates and things so that we can make your job super easy and have you just focus on communicating with the woman and having those conversations that that you guys do so well and providing that support.
Thank you guys so much. Yes, and then one last thing I want to say, and I've written it down. I know this is an assignment for you all, but I never felt that you did it because it was your assignment. I always felt that you're doing it with deep commitment and very deep understanding for the target group HorizonCentre is serving. So I also wanted to mention that because, and I really mean it from my heart. I never felt that you're doing it because you have to do it, and you put all your heart in. Yes, and I think it needs to be acknowledged.
To piggyback off of that a little bit, I think I want to thank Huan because this class really filled a hole for a lot of us in ID who were interested in humanitarian and social work and didn't really get to experience a lot of courses at RISD that involved that type of work. So for a lot of us, it was finally getting to do work that we had all aspired to do. And so it's been a really great opportunity. We don't often get jobs or get projects that directly impact beneficiaries. So doing research and collaborating with the FARO staff has been an amazing opportunity and a great experience for us all. So thank you all so much for giving us that opportunity and that experience.
You're welcome, Sam. Yeah, that was, as I said, like in the very beginning of the class, when I was an undergrad student, like none of my projects were like real world projects. And that always like, made me frustrated, like, where is this going? What is happening? And once I got into this space, I saw lesser classes or projects that are focusing on international development or humanitarian innovation or any social design stuff. So I wanted to like give you guys that opportunity to, experience it and then, have a glance of or taste of what it's actually like in this space. And as we know, as we like moved our semester like forward, we had a lot of changes we had to make due to, different legislations popping up, COVID-19, just like name it. We just made so many changes. And I think in one of the classes that we talked about was that this is what it's like, working in this space. You just have to adapt to all these like minor or like major changes all along the way, and nothing goes according to plan. But I think you guys did a really great job pulling it off. And then, I really hope that this experience could help you think more about, maybe considering being in this space, or hopefully the skills and stuff that you learned could apply to the other like job spaces that you're trying to go forward with. So I'm really happy that you guys all experienced it. Good job, guys. So are there any other ending notes or anything from anybody that they want to share? Okay, I think it's about time now. So yeah, so once again, I wanted to congratulate all the students and the Horizon staff of creating this amazing package of materials that we can disseminate to the boys and women's. And I mean, we have so much material now. So a lot of design instructors, we all calculated on our calendar to figure out like, you know, how long these activities will go on for. So we have about like a month and a half to 2 months worth of materials that we can kind of like play around and disseminate over the course of the next couple months, which is great because these are really fascinating and fun activities. But also like in that time, we could, you know, utilize that time to think about the post-COVID-19 situation that will happen at the HorizonCentre and start like creating materials around that. So yeah, thank you so much in so many different aspects, providing us these amazing activities, this experience, and also giving us time to work on other like programs that we are thinking about to disseminate to HorizonCentre. So once again, thank you so much. And thank you all the guests to coming in and joining this design review. Hopefully this design review was an inspiration design review for many of you. And then if you have any more comments or feedbacks, or if you want to reach out to different teams and stuff, just let me know. I will connect you with them. And once again, all the materials will be shared onto a single Google Drive folder, and I will send that link out to you guys today. So for those who want to go back and then watch all the videos, the GIFs, the instruction guides and everything, it'll be there for you. And if you have more comments around it, yeah, please send it back to us onto the spreadsheet, and then the students will reply back to you ASAP. Great. So
also just want to
yes.
say before we finish, congrats to all the seniors who as of this second just graduated.
Oh yes, congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will update you guys on you know, how things go at the HorizonCentre. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys will, you know, you know, like will be participating in the dissemination of your activities and stuff. But yeah, Dimitris and Izmi and I will ensure that we keep track on, you know, all the feedback and then the progress that the beneficiaries are making throughout your projects, and then you know, have a discussion with you like at each of, and after like each of the dissemination, like after the end of each of your projects are disseminated. So yeah, we'll schedule those Zoom calls so we can have a deeper conversation on each of your activities. Okay, so congratulations guys, you guys did it. Thank you so much once again, and yeah, we'll talk very soon.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank
To
you.
all the guests,
Everybody.
guest speakers.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.